Alright, what is up guys? Toxic Walker here. We're going to be doing some basics today. This series of videos I'm going to be making is basically for a lot of the people that have asked for my video to be made, or this particular video to be made from stream and my friends. And what this is basically a video on how I play the game and how I use my controls. The reason why people have asked me for this is because my ability to both fly in simulator and to be able to use all of my controls individually whilst on controller, and a lot of my PlayStation friends and a lot of other people have asked me how do I do it. So with the basics done with what we're actually going to be doing, let's get into it. So first of all, what we need to do is establish what it is we're trying to do. Like you'll be able to see in my control mapping, in case those of you who don't know how to do this, go down to the bottom here and you can control whether you want to save, load, or rewrite your control maps. So as you can see, I have one called Sim, right? You can see the date that it was made. And that one has become sort of my previous ones, and I use this one now, the new default. This one is the most recent one that I use, and it's the only one that I use now. So I would recommend that after you've finished making your controls, or you have your current controls, save it first. So your default controls, so that you have a basis to go back to. Even though you can technically just hit triangle here and do the setup wizard, it will allow you to just basically fix everything in here, so you don't have to worry about it. But yeah, you can see on the setup wizard what is or isn't assigned, where it is assigned, and what's assigned to it. Now, I would recommend having separate controls if you need to for ground and aircraft. So as I said earlier, you might want to go into here, and you may want to make a separate one for, as I got here, ships, my experimental controls, sim, default, and new default. Tanks and aircraft you might be able to have on the same one, or you might go aircraft and naval, etc., etc. You can combine the controls. They don't necessarily have to be separated at all. But sometimes you'll have problems if you have controls all set up on your aircraft, for example. You have to, as you can see here, do all of these things, but it may overwrite your ground vehicle controls, so you may need to adjust it where necessary. Let's get straight into it in terms of what I do. So my controls are set up like this. So what I do is I go into realistic controls. You can go into full real if you want everything. Editor Toxic here. Just got to point out toggle SS mode. I'm going to talk about it in a second, but that's what you need to do right there in full real. Make sure you have it to full real and set it. I do realistic controls for the easiest setup wizard, because with full real you add trimming and all that, and you don't really need to worry about any of that. For what I do direct control and just have SAS modes available. So this is just for flying a jet. If you want to fly props in simulator, I would recommend going to full real and having all of those trimming controls and that kind of stuff, because it will inherently help you. Pardon me. So obviously starting from top to bottom, we've got the throttle axis, which is not going to change. I always have it on my right stick. You can have it hold throttle for WEP, it's up to you. And then you have right stick pitch axis. So right stick left, right for the roll axis. Left stick left, up, down for pitch axis, and yaw. This is important. A lot of people don't have this assigned. It won't be assigned by default. Yaw is never assigned by default. Right? You want to have that on left, right as well. Some of these for you guys may not even be assigned at all, because it may just be set up on the mouse wheel or on a mouse aim specifically. I don't know if you'll be able to find it here. Yeah, so you have mouse aim is what it'll be set to, which is on your left stick anyway. But I've removed that control entirely, so you may want to also do that. I don't know where it is in this list. Hey guys, Toxic here again. editing. I found it in my controls here. You'll see right here, there is use touchpad for aiming, and that's what I have to remove my mouse aim on my left stick. That is how I use my mouse aim on my touchpad, so my left stick controls my aircraft directly, while my touchpad moves the mouse aim. These manual accesses are what you're trying to set up. You do need to go into them and set up these dead zones, nonlinearities, multipliers, and corrections based on your physical attributes of your controller. I cannot really do this for you because it's based on how your preferences. For example, you may want more yaw sensitivity, which you might want to adjust here, or you can adjust in there. The dead zone refers to the amount of non-movement within the stick. So if you don't want any, if you want your stick to move the moment you press it, have zero dead zone. Non-linearity just means smoothing, how much smoothing you want on it. If you have it too high, then your smoothing is just going to prevent you from actually moving. So you don't want that. You may want to, if you feel like your controls are too aggressive, go relative control, and you might want to set that up. But that will inherently, that means that it is going to, as you can see here, increase, decrease. It's going to keep the movement of whatever you do. So if you hit left to full, it will just stay in left full on relative. So you may not want to set that. These thrust vectors and hover heights, I wouldn't change from your defaults as long as they don't interfere with anything. The next thing you want to have is your wing sweep controls for aircraft that require it. Have a wing sweep set up. You can see mine is set up like this with the square down and square up. This may interfere with some other controls, and you can. Alright, I have my sweep controls. I will show you what that looks like when I do a manual.
Anybody see anything?
You can see I've got overlapping controls, but not really much I can do about it. Controls, and you can see my controls here. So I have these controls which are a little bit weird and awkward, and you can change them obviously to your personal liking. But they are important to have because they'll help you out in the long run in terms of what actually um, you actually need depending on the aircraft. So having all of these, even if you don't have an aircraft that requires it, may be helpful. So things like ignite boosters, for example, there are some early level jet aircraft like the ME-262 or the Kika or the ME-163 that have boosters attached to them, and you cannot take off without them, or you have a very difficult time taking off without them, and you need to remove the boosters to put the gear in. And they're rocket boosters. So some aircraft require you to use the rocket boosters. So it is important that you do have it for jets. You will need obviously your air brake, and you might need thrust reversal. This is a good one to have just because if you need to slow down very quickly, if your aircraft has it, for example the Tornado and the Harrier I believe also has it. Don't quote me on that one. I'm not entirely sure. And then you can get toggle gear. Obviously you want to have toggle gear. You may want to assign left brake and right brake. I don't, not important. The small and large caliber guns are all set to the same for me on an aircraft. It's all just the right trigger, and I think that's default. You don't need to change that. You can see here you've got 5 machine guns, cannons. This is a squeeze trigger axis, and this one is actually pretty good to have because it means that should you squeeze the trigger, it will have a difference between firing your large caliber and your small caliber. So if you want to, you can just have this one and remove both of them. Now, fire secondary weapons is very important. This is basically any of your missiles, etc. Do have a jettison secondary weapon lineup in case you're flying simulator because you may need to jettison bombs, for example. And this is something that you will find is going to be very important if you're trying to run away or get into a combat engagement against an enemy aircraft. This is just jettison, by the way, in case you don't know what it is the ability to drop something without arming something, so you won't explode. For example, if you drop a bomb. Jettison the bombs. engage in turn fight. You also need a bomb. Bomb series is optional. You don't need it, but you can set it. Fire rocket salvo, fire air to air, all of this stuff is important and you require it. But as I said, fire secondary weapon will engage all of these. So all I have for my personal use is fire secondary weapon. That's all I use. So whether I'm dropping a bomb, firing a rocket, etc., it all works off of my right trigger, including the rockets, my air to airs, my air to ground. Everything can be fired with the right trigger, also with the right bumper, because I have set here switch weapon, switch secondary weapons, and this basically just means that I can select the different weapons, right? So I can switch from my bombs, I can switch from my missiles to my GBUs if I have them, to dumbfire bombs, to rockets, whatever I have at the time, and I will quickly show you what that looks like in game when we're actually flying, which you will see right here. I'm going to grab my GBU paveways, using my target selector, pay attention on the left how it's changing. What I'm going to do is I'm going to engage my GBUs. The next bit we're going to show you is the periodic countermeasure release and fire countermeasures. You want to have this set up. If you don't, you'll find yourself in a pickle. I would highly recommend you pick an ergonomic control for this. Whatever is easiest for you is the best option, not picking just what I have, because this is going to be very, very important for you to engage in, for example, dogfights, or when you're getting chased by an enemy and you need to fire flares, or if you just need to have it turned on so that you're not actually having to do it, then you will want to set these. You may want to select this countermeasure slaving to more if you have a missile alert warning system, but you may not have one. For example, the F-111 does have one, but very few other aircraft do in the game. You may want to set this up so that it is engaged or is always on, or may not want to have it set up at all. For example, of losing, or if you wanted to disengage your uh, weapon selection, have your exit selected weapon mode on so you can fire bombs and rockets at the same time. As you can see here, I've got fire bombs, right? Fire bomb series and fire rocket salvo. So if I wanted to drop all my bombs and all my rockets at the same time, then I would have to exit the selected mode and I would hit left bumper, right bumper to drop all my bombs, then right bumper, left bumper to drop all of my rockets. Pretty simple. Guided bombs. Um, Guided bombs are a bit difficult because you need to actually have a laser system or a targeting system assigned, which means you need to find, if I can find it, weapon lock air to ground is left bumper, left arrow for me. So that means that's how you lock on. And it's the same for my bomb. So lock guided bomb is left arrow, left bumper. Different order, same thing. That's basically how I lock everything. And it's important that you have this because when you're flying in simulator, you want to be able to lock onto whatever you're locking onto. I'll show you a video of this now and you'll be able to see it. So we go into here, and as you can see my controls from earlier, we're going to target the vessel. Once the targeting pod says that we can fire, which we already can, we're going to drop a paveway. Alright, now that you have seen all of that, we are going to go to the next part in controls. Here it is. You want to have your radar also have a toggle laser designator. Trust me, it'll be very, very helpful if you can turn it on and off, because sometimes you don't want that fucking thing locking onto things. It can be very, very annoying. Have that selected, or uh, have that as a control for your simulator controls, because it sometimes you'll be sitting there and your laser designator will be locking onto aircraft and such, and it'd be very much a pain in the ass. Anyway, so you want to have at least these two Alright, so select radar target to lock is down arrow triangle for me, and then X to actually lock onto it. You want to have a lock radar IRST target assigned manually and not have to use this. If you can as well, have an assignment to change the radar and IRST mode, okay? Because that will switch between the different radar types. You don't need to have one for switching between radar and IST. This is not important. You have the multifunctional menu. Use it when you need to. The same is for the radar beyond and with the end visual range. You don't need to have this as a quick control. It will help, but you don't need it, because if you have it on change radar mode, you will be able to switch between a within and beyond radar visual simply by switching radar modes. And I'll show you how this works a bit later. Okay, so now that we've got the annoying bits out of the way, the radar and such, you will have to also have this assigned. So activate target point. You may want to have a deactivate target point. I don't, because when you're locking onto something, you don't really have to turn it off. And then site stabilization. You want site stabilization and activate target point on the same button. I personally use it that way, so that you can always easily have a control that tells you uh, what you're trying to lock onto. And what this means is that when you're using a targeting pod, you need to be able to stabilize the sight and turn on your laser with the same button, or at least turn on and activate targeting point with the same button. So you hit down arrow and X in my case to stabilize the sight and to have it realize that you're trying to find a target. That way, when you lock onto something, it will come up with a little square, and I'll show you how this works on the A10 later. And that's very important. The rest is all optional stuff, so you don't need to have anything else beyond here. This is all miscellaneous. For example, you don't really need an NVD mode. You don't need to have things selected for aerobatic smoke. You don't need to have things for pitch and the manual engine control. All of this stuff is optional, not required. A lot of people stress about it on simulator, but it's only really important if you're going props, which, as I said earlier, if you're going to have a props control, have a separate simulator props control specifically for props by hitting this little button down here. And welcome back. So we're going to be doing a full combat sortie, and I'll be showing you guys how this works. First, we are going to close cockpit. Be advised, this is all in simulator. If you do not close your cockpit, it may break off. You may want to do this, but I personally don't. I hate breaking up the cockpit. I think it's very unrealistic. So when we're starting off, obviously I am doing a full mission here, and we are going to fly, take off, and head to the rendezvous point. We've got 8 aircraft with us. We're sitting on an aircraft carrier. These are AI. As you can see, there will be no players within this. It's all going to be against AI. So, when we're taking off, we set our flaps to take off. We have to make sure our flaps are on takeoff. This carrier may be a bit small for F-14s, but that is what it is. My AI aircraft may not survive this journey. Then, once you're ready to take off, you set your takeoff speed, flaps, and everything is set. Once you are happy with your engine spooling, which should take a little bit, you want to first start turning or start your movement and then go to afterburner. Do not immediately go on to afterburner. Get the plane moving first, otherwise your afterburner probably won't take effect. Now I have no idea if my allied aircraft will actually be able to take off of that carrier. It is kind of difficult to do it on those little ones. In simulator mode, you have no ability to actually look behind you or exit the first-person cockpit, so we won't actually be able to check whether my allied aircraft made it off okay or not, but that is okay. You'll see I have an interesting loadout of 2 AIM-9Ls, 1 AIM-7, and 4 GBUs. This is because it's a multi-purpose loadout, and we are going to be showcasing how to actually fly an aircraft in sim as a multi-role fighter. I choose to do a multi-role fighter basically because it gives you the best overall options as to how to actually fly. So you'll notice right now my controls are very twitchy, right? If I turn or if I pull, I will pull very dramatically. And to prevent this from happening, all we need to do is, if we go into our controls, like I showed you earlier, you'll notice at the top here, there is toggle SAS mode. We're going to engage that. That is going to set us to dampening, and now when I hit up, you'll see it's a lot slower. This is a good and bad thing because it means you won't be able to break your wings, or you'll have a dampening and you'll find it very difficult to actually break anything. You'll notice that in my mirror you saw the aircraft, so that means I have my AI. As you can see, we are all here. We're now headed to the rendezvous point inside of enemy territory, which means we're going to get shot at. Now, when engaging with boats, as you can see down there, which is what we're going to do, we're going to flip around. So we go into here, and as you can see my controls from earlier, we're going to target the vessel. Once the targeting pod says that we can fire, which we already can, we're going to drop a paveway. I dropped 2 just to make sure because that is a battleship, and I don't know whether or not it will die to the first one. We wait for the impact. I certainly hope they didn't detonate. That would be funny. As you can see, we've got our ordnance tracking. It is going to tell me when it is safe to drop. You'll see this line at the top start to drop to the bottom. When they connect, that's when I drop. Tracking, drop, 1 away. And now we watch with the targeting pod for the bomb. Impact. Obviously that hit the citadel, which is not really what we're aiming for, but that's fine. As I said, you may have overlapping controls. There's not really a whole lot you can do about it. I'm just going to double check if that is back to my... That is. There's the friendly Tomcat. Okay, it has spawned the enemy aircraft. Enemy aircraft have spawned. We can see them off the nose, coming directly at us. I'm the only one with radar seekers. I've given the AI all heat seekers. As you can see, I shortened my band on my radar. This is to basically track the target that I have found, right? Now, if I go to TWS, you can see it has a wider head, and it will find the target, and I can lock it. This is a great way of finding and searching for targets if you need to actually track a target and find them manually. But if, for example, you don't have TWS, I will now unlock this target. You can do this another way. So we'll switch to the regular mode. We'll go to SRC and we will engage our radar to its full extent. SRC will be able to track any target that it comes across in the sky, provided of course we aren't blinded by clouds. So we'll switch to the pulse Doppler mode. This enables us to find a target, and now if we want to track where it goes, because if it moves from that area, you'll notice it disappears. We go into a shorter base, a shorter cone, and now we can track its movement. I can now grab it quite easily, and even if it were to move, I can still fire my M7. Sparrow away, Fox 3, or Fox 1, correction. I am being told that my GBU is apparently tracking and able to target. That is hilarious. Bandits merging. Engage. Turn good. Fox 2, 1 away. Ooh. Aircraft collision? What? I was murdered by an F-16. What do you mean aircraft collision? Sidewind up. Friendly. I gotta show you the GPU. We're gonna pop them both. Jettisoned. I no longer have the GPUs. I don't need them. They're just extra weight. We're going to switch to our ACM pulse Doppler mode. Oh! Shocker. I need to leave the plane. Lucky. Aim 9L. I am just spawning right in front of these guys, so I can't actually kill them. Look, I just keep bumping right there, right behind them. That's funny. That's an enemy missile. We don't want to track that. Gauge our flaps. Target, box 2. Come on, Betsy. I know you're big. Sparrow. Box 1. Kill. Sparrow away, Box 1. I think it'll reach. Box 2. They're out of bounds now, so I don't think I'll be able to hit them. The game's not very intelligent, is it? Just keep throwing me about like, no, you can't be here. Woo. Anyway. Yep. So that just about covers the basics, and then we'll have to go over tactics as well, but I'll save that for another video. And I think that is going to be it for the basics. Hopefully I haven't missed anything, and if I have, I'll be sure to record it after this. But yeah, if there's anything that you guys need in the next video, feel free to leave comments, ask questions, that kind of stuff, and I'll be sure to cover it in the next episode. But for now, that is it, and I appreciate every single one of you. You guys are awesome, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.
さようなら。